do this presentation for churches called Pictures of Jesus, where I paint unusual pictures to help people to come to know and understand Him. Well, tonight as we look at Love Feast, we're going to see Jesus giving us some pictures of His own, some visible reminders of really important things that we need to know if we're going to follow Him. We see the first one here in John 13. I love this passage, and this service is very near and dear to my heart, but there are a few things in this passage that have always blown my mind a little bit. The first one is found in verse 1. It was just before the Passover feast. Jesus knew that the time had come for Him to leave this world and go to the Father. Having loved His own who were in the world, He now showed them the full extent of His love. Did you catch that? Here we have Jesus. Think about who He is. He's the Son of God and God in the flesh. The scriptures tell us later on that God is love. In a very real sense, this means Jesus is love incarnate, love in the flesh. Now in this verse it says that when Jesus did what He is about to do, it was Him showing the full extent of His love. Think about what that means. Jesus is God, God is love, Jesus is love incarnate. And now we're going to see how the very definition of love shows the full extent of His love. He does it not by some grandiose miracle, but simply by doing a common act of service. This tells me a lot. It tells me it doesn't necessarily require doing something huge to have a huge impact. Maybe that's a lesson for us. We sometimes hold back in doing things for others because we don't think we can do something important enough. But if Jesus can show the full extent of His love by simply washing feet, maybe our small efforts done with great love can make a real difference too. In the next couple verses, we see another thing that's just amazing. Jesus, the Son of God, the Creator of the universe, starts washing His disciples' feet. Now again, if you grew up in the Church of the Brethren in the Anabaptist tradition, this foot washing thing is something you're used to. But outside of that culture, it's not too common. What makes it even more uncommon is who's doing it here. We have to kind of travel back in time a little bit. In our era, most of us have many pairs of shoes, and we drive almost everywhere we go. In Jesus' day, they walked pretty much everywhere on stone streets and dirt streets with sandals. They shared those streets with animals. By the end of the day, a person's feet were filthy, so it was common courtesy for a homeowner to have a servant to clean the feet of your guests as they entered your home. And how many of you have ever been the low man on the totem pole, the low person on the totem pole? You know the bad jobs sort of always roll downhill to that person, right? Well, foot washing was one of those jobs that fell to the servant of lowest rank. And here we have the perfect Jesus, the Creator of the universe, washing the dirty feet of sinful men. It's almost upside down, and Peter saw it and tried to resist. But Jesus told him, if I don't wash your feet, Peter, you have no part of me. So Peter gave in, and the lesson continued. But for me, the most difficult thing to imagine is easy to overlook. In verse 2, we see that Judas has already been tempted by the devil. The die is cast. What he is about to do, and he's about to betray Jesus, it's going to happen. And then Jesus begins washing feet. He had this little encounter with Peter, and in his explanation to Peter, we see something really interesting. Jesus answered, a person who has had a bath needs only to wash his feet. His whole body is clean. And you are clean, though not every one of you. For he knew who was going to betray him, and that is why he said not everyone was clean. When he had finished washing their feet, he put on his clothes and returned to his place. Okay, Judas has been tempted. Verse 11 shows us very clearly that Jesus knew it, but in verse 12 it says Jesus finished washing their feet. He washed them all. He even washed Judas. Jesus intentionally washed the feet of his betrayer. Could you do that? I mean, think about the picture of Jesus we get here. We see a Jesus who is filled with the power of God, and that God has given him power over all things. We see love incarnate humble himself to do the work of the lowest slave in the house. And we see that he is willing to serve even his betrayer. This picture of Jesus is a picture of power and humility, of grace and love, even to those who would willingly do him harm. You know why that's important? Because he is our example, and we are his representatives. We're supposed to do as he has done. We're not just supposed to see pictures of Jesus as children of God created in his image. We're supposed to be pictures of Jesus. And in case you think I'm overstating this, look at the end of verse 12. Do you understand what I have done for you? He asked them. That's a question we all need to answer. This foot washing is a lot more than the thing we need to get out of the way before we can get to the meal. This act is important because it shows us how to be like our master. In verse 13, Jesus said, "You call me teacher and Lord." And rightly so, for that is what I am. Now, that I, your teacher and Lord, have washed your feet, you also should wash one another's feet. I have set you an example that you should do as I have done for you. I tell you the truth, no servant is greater than his master, nor is a messenger greater than the one who sent him. Now that you know these things, you will be blessed if you do them. Friends, our world is in trouble. Many people are far away from the truth that will set them free. In the washing of feet, Jesus shows us how to be like him, how to represent him to a world that desperately needs him. It doesn't have to be some huge, grandiose, showy thing. It's as simple as common courtesy. It's as simple as service. It's as simple as washing feet. If our King can be our servant, shouldn't we be servants so that people can meet our King? Let us follow in the example our Master set and commanded us to follow. Let us enter into this time of practicing humility and love within the family of God so that we can be prepared to leave this place and live lives of humble service, attracting people to the truth that will set them free.